This is Dan Farisi, Group Editor, Commercial and Security with Emerald. So happy to be joined today by Kurt DeYoung, who is Chief Revenue Officer with Nanolumens. Topic of conversation is, of course, digital signage and video walls, aligning with our digital signage and video wall deep dive, which is in our April issue of CI plus SSI, as well as all over the Commercial Integrator website throughout the month of April. Nanolumens is, of course, a recognized industry leader in this category. So, of course, we immediately sought out Kurt to lend some insights, give us some perspective on the trends he's seeing in the category and how Nanolumens continues to lead the category. So, thank you so much, Kurt, for being here. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dan. Great to be with you and participate in your video wall deep dive sessions.
Very much appreciate it. It wouldn't be complete without Nanolumens as a true industry leader. And let's start with that. What are some of the trends that you are seeing in the video wall category, in the digital signage category? What are some of the evolutions or dominant trends you're seeing? And how, of course, is Nanolumens kind of leaning into those or trying to seize on the opportunities that you're seeing across these markets?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a really fast-moving business. I think the technology curve is changing pretty dramatically, and you come back from events like ISE, and then you start to read a lot of the news and the reports coming from Frost and Sullivan and yours and other media outlets like 16.9. I mean, there's a lot going on in the LED business right now. I think if we look at it kind of at a high level, some of the things that are really kind of topical that might be interesting for the viewership would be, this really dramatic shift towards COB technologies, right? I think a lot of people, that's definitely driving the industry for a number of different reasons. I think the different creative applications that people are starting to dream up with the direct view LED technology is really starting to change pretty dramatically as well. And then I think things that are kind of like not so, I mean, they're product focused, but it's really about day two, which is, okay, now that I have this device that's installed in my facility and augmenting my lobby or my wayfinding strategy, how do I manage these devices in a day two scenario so that they look great from day one to year 10, which is generally kind of the useful life of a direct view LED wall.
So much great stuff there, Kurt. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, you mentioned the chip on board, you mentioned these creative applications. Do you want to talk a little bit about Nanolumens technology in the sense that you, with your DVLED, with your displays, are really able to give that beautiful canvas for the creative technologies that we're seeing? I mean, whether it's in a lobby, whether it's in an airport. I mean, DVLED is really kind of a canvas for this creative beauty, isn't it? And I mean, there's no better positioned vendor than Nanolumens to show all of that quality.
Yeah, I do think it's really interesting because I mean, when you think of video walls and kind of the first thing that pops in your mind is, I have a large rectangle on my wall, right? And that was always the case with LCD, and that's really where this whole kind of category emerged as projections started to fade out. But there's so many different ways that you can use direct view LED in very creative ways. And you don't really have to think about it as a straight up rectangle on the wall. I mean, we get into all kinds of scenarios where there might be a size constraint. There may be a very specific architectural, area that a screen can be installed in because of, existing millwork or historic building requirements. But then you also get into these curved and domed, types of scenarios that have, creative applications, but also very specific use cases at times. Can the company, your partner, really help you service a broad range of items as opposed to, just being really good at hanging rectangles on the wall, right? And we have a terminology that we use internally. We call it digital drywall, and that's really what we're able to do with direct view LED screens is fully integrate these pieces of technology into the architecture and really make it part of the building, right? Part of the building environment and part of the building experience for clients and then their clients, the people that are visiting these spaces.
I may have to steal that digital drywall. I really like that.
Don't you dare. Come on. Don't you dare.
You mentioned earlier that this is a long-term investment. I mean, DVLED is not a commodity. This is something that's going to be around for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, or beyond. Do you want to talk a little bit about that ongoing service and maintenance and support to make sure it looks just as good on day 5,000 as it does on day one?
Yeah, it really comes down to educating clients about their use case, their environment, available augmentations that are out there for video walls, especially when we get into the LED side of the video wall space, and the advantages of different types of SMD process, whether it is a COB, a traditional SMD, something with a Protect coating, which is commonly, that we offer, but it's commonly called GOB, which is glue on board. And how do you protect these screens once they're in? And what's the duty cycle that you're, intending on putting this asset through? Because to your point, it is a capital asset, right? DVLED can get very expensive very quickly without really trying that hard, right? And I think it starts with that. You have to engage the client in a conversation about, okay, what are you trying? Like, what's the end goal? What's the content? What's the use case environment? How close are people going to be in the space? How close are they in proximity to the video wall? How do we mitigate some of those risks for damages, especially with broader pitch SMD that typically has been pretty robust, but other technologies like COB, or when you augment it with the GOB coating, it becomes a lot more robust in those types of scenarios. And I think that's kind of where it starts, is understanding the use case, the environment, et cetera. And then really starting to think about, okay, what services is the systems integrator going to provide? And what systems can, or what solutions and services can the manufacturer augment the systems integrator service contract with? Things like NanoSuite, here at Nanolumens, which is a remote monitoring and management platform, or our SLAs for these video walls once they're in space, which you get direct support from the manufacturer at an escalated level and certain number of visits per year to do maintenance and those sorts of things. So I think it's a long conversation, and I think the problem is, because LED is so expensive, right? Buyers have a tendency to say, "Give me the cheapest option," and purchasing organizations get involved in a lot of cases, and the client may not get exactly what they need unless they go into that internal process with a lot of information and armed with the correct information, and be able to build those business cases and justifications for the particular technology choices they've made.
I don't think there's any doubt about it, Kurt. I mean, when you think about like a consultative sales approach, I don't think there's a better application or a better example than DVLED, because, as you say, it's a significant capital expense. The ROI can be tremendous over the course of a decade or more, but you need to do that internal consultation with all the stakeholders right at the outset to make sure you're getting the technology you need at the price point you can afford, and have a plan in place to make sure it's going to look as good, as I say, on day 3,000 as it does on day one.
Exactly. And engage in that kind of like, hey, this is choice, but here's the giveaway, right? And try to help them build an informed choice. And those clients that just call like, hey, we're just getting a bid. Without that context, it's hard for companies like us to really, engage in that conversation if we're not really well informed about the client's needs and applications. And I think it just really, that's where the whole process starts, right? And it's incumbent upon us as vendors of a technology that can be opaque at times, right? It's complicated, it's fast. All the details may or may not be available on the web. So you really have to build that trusted relationship, that trusted advisor relationship with your client.
Well, here's to that. Here's to building that trusted advisor relationship. I think it's absolutely critical to all of our collective futures. Thank you so much, Kurt DeYoung, Chief Revenue Officer with Nanolumens, for joining me today and shedding some real insight in the digital signage and video wall category.
Thanks, Dan, and more than happy to be here, and have a great day.
Likewise, my name is Dan Farisi, Group Editor, Commercial and Security with Emerald. Please do check out our video wall and digital signage deep dive, which is in our April issue of CI plus SSI, as well as all over the CI website throughout this month. Check it out because we have a lot of great thought leader interviews, just like this one with Kurt, talking about the latest trends in experiential signage, digital signage, and video walls. We look forward to seeing you back on the website very soon.